sort of grayish brown. And you'll argue with him, no, that's yellow. But you begin to spend more hours with your peer group than you do with your parents. And then, of course, on television and books and everything else, they say this color's gray-brown, it's not yellow. Now, you'll finally succumb to the pressure and say, okay, that's not yellow. But you'll have an uncomfortable feeling about it every time because there's a part of you this big says that's yellow.
Mommy and Daddy told me that was yellow.
Well, it doesn't even rationalize it.
Just that's yellow.
That's yellow. The rationale is a Freudian thing. And one of the things that is disagreeable to me is that we've been hypnotized by Freud to the extent that we have to have a rationale or a reason for our behavior. And that is so unlike nature. And it's so obvious that it's unlike nature. I can't understand why people want to persist in it. But worse yet, we act as if we have a reason for something. Well, one of the jokes I give, you know, there's all this thing about dependency and codependency and being children of, adult children of alcoholics and so forth, as if that is an excuse for my behavior. I want to go, and since I have an audience right now, my dad's dead, so he can't hear this, but Mom might see this. And I'd like her to know I'm going to form a group someday for the adult children of upholsterers. And because I think
won't be a part of that
should,
one.
yeah, they should get some recognition too. And look what happened to me, because my dad was an upholsterer. The thing that is missing in psychology today, and the thing that no-fault psychology, in my opinion, no-fault psychology and other than conscious communication is all about, is a person being responsible for their response. You know, I'm sorry if you had a mother that disappointed you, and if you had a daddy who didn't pat you on the popo when you thought it was appropriate. But that's too bad. What are you going to do about life now?
Well, you mentioned in your training that I have used again is that from about the age of 1 to 7, all that children can do is adapt and survive. Then
They're
what?
Damn lucky if they can. At about the, my belief system is about the age of 6, a very interesting thing takes place. And if you watch children, at the age of 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there, they begin to take the responsibility within themselves to respond differently. So like if you have a brother and sister or 2 sisters or something in the family about the same age, the same event takes place, each of them will respond differently to it. We each begin to explore what's a better response, how am I going to get a better feeling about this thing, this event, whatever it is. I think also in our lives, when we're little, many of us, by sheer happenstance, happen to be in an environment where we have amateur parents who are in, well, what's going on right now in your area here in Michigan? It is a tremendous shock to a family structure for a person who's worked for years in an industry all of a sudden find himself not sure whether he's going to have a place in that industry, whether or not he's going to have a job or she's going to have a job.
And in many cases, they don't have them anymore. They don't have the jobs anymore.
It's already gone.
It's already gone.
And what happens to us as adults is, in my thinking, is we build a belief system about our value, our self-value, based on what we're doing, you see. And we never go around and take out signs and put them up on the wall.
Not big ones, just little ones.
No, we don't even put little ones up. I work for General Motors. We don't put that on a trunk of our car. We don't put that over our bedstead. But I'm a foreman in such and such a plant. And that means something to that person. And that person has built his sense of value about himself. And all of a sudden you take that away. Now when a person gets scared and they start acting scared, then it trickles down. This is where Reaganomics really works. It trickles down in the family so that the kids are affected. Everybody's affected. But bottom line, it's still the individual, whether it's the child or the wife or the husband, it's their responsibility how they respond to it.
Well, you mentioned amateur parents. I want to know what that means, and how can a child determine how to respond to that?
Well, as a child, what they do is they look for clues from their parents as to how to respond.
And what if they're getting different clues, opposite clues
Then
from
they
both
act
parents?
crazy when they grow up.
They act crazy as children and then grow up crazy?
Yeah, and Gregory Bateson did some interesting work about schizophrenics, where his belief system was that when you're getting paradoxical information, this is very confusing, and I think when it happens to a small child, their only resort is to go into what psychologists call schizophrenic reactions, which I consider just a safety valve. However, if you keep practicing acting crazy, pretty soon you're so good at it that and you get star billing all the time, you forget how to act normal. The paradoxical information is when you're getting two different types of information.
From mom and from dad.
Yeah, and this is one of the things where I think intercession, whether it's with somebody like me or you, it is reassuring sometimes for a person who's scared when they've lost a job to be able to recognize that this is just a page of the book of life. It's not the whole book of life. And to remember when we talked about gold mining?
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that are listening out there, gold mining to me, the average person when they go into, quote, therapy, seem to have a concept that what they go for is to find out what's wrong with them. When I work with a person, I want to find out what do they do well.
What if they don't want to talk about that? What if they want to talk about, I call it the death stories?
Oh, I let them go somebody that handles that sort of thing. Can't imagine why you'd want to do that.
I remember you telling me that you hit them when they do that.
Well, I don't want to say that on television.
Okay.
I get their attention. But by the time somebody has, nowadays, if somebody had told me years ago that people would come all the way out there to a little island to have sessions with me, I just said they're into some good stuff.
And yet we do it. We come out for training and people come out to find out more about that no-fault psychology.
Anyway, it's hard to describe other than conscious communication, other than conscious communication. And sometime if you want something to sleep on,
yes,
imagine how difficult it would be to try and describe water to a fish.
it's better to have the experience.
See, they take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we do with all this other than conscious stuff. Now, for example, for their benefit, here they're asking you to look at what's the word again? I want
Be an active listener.
active listener, doing this and that and sort of thing.
Nodding and agreeing with you and saying, yes,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
it.
that's what they're asking you to do.
And it's very hard to do that.
Well, you don't have to do that because ever since you were this big, you learned to do that. Isn't that right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Well, is take off your clothes.
No.
No. See, we
I've
learned to do these. You went into neutral pretty good. We have learned to do those things, and here are these people who think that that's active listening.
Mm-hmm.
Active listening is what you do inside your head, not with your head, in my opinion. And then you can turn around and use what you've listened to and apply it. and then it becomes a gift. That's a distinction between wisdom and knowledge.
And in the 2.5-day training,
Sorry?
in the 2.5-day training that you're going to be doing, what pieces are you going to be using
I
with
have
the
no
other than
idea.
conscious communication? Well, what have you done in the past? What am I going to learn in a
Hopefully how to
2.5-day segment?
well, I'm going to use a word, and then it's going to take an hour and a half to describe what I meant. Most people are incongruent. They're incongruent with themselves, they're incongruent with their children, they're incongruent with their coworkers. Give you a gross example. It's when we say, "Oh, I'm so happy that you showed up today."